All right, we are live. Let's make sure everything's working as always. As you know, I am always concerned about being a glitch. So let's make sure everything's working because we have a lot to talk about tonight. And come to Papa. And there it is. We're live. All right, good. All right. Yay! Good evening, everyone. We have a lot to talk about. Good evening, everyone, to the premium members. Good evening to everyone watching on YouTube. You guys are awesome. We got a lot to talk about. But first, I want to talk about something very, very near and dear to my heart. So let me just bring this up real fast. This is for my niece. Okay. I shared this on Twitter. I put it up on the top. I made sure it's saved. Let's see. Bad echo. Everything. Make sure I don't have anything. Okay, that should be good. No more echo, right? I would think so. It's always good. Still trying to learn how to do this properly, but I think that should do it. Okay, so this right here, my niece is battling cancer. Naturally, she is kicking butt. But my brother is doing this 5K run. I don't do running. I do lifting. My brother does running because he doesn't have bad knees like I do. So he's doing a 5K run to raise money for treatments and cure for other kids. All right. So if you have a chance, check it out. And there's still an echo in here. Okay, all right. So maybe it was an issue. Okay, guys. All right. So where was I? Okay, right. Okay, so basically, he does this every year, and this year I got approval because I asked my brother before I do anything online if it's okay to share it. Because you gotta be careful with stuff online. So this is really important to him and of course to me. Again, my niece is kicking brain cancer's butt because she's tough like that. But definitely, if you have a spare $5, $1, whatever you can donate, I'd really appreciate it. I already put my share in, but definitely already other people have shared it and applied to it and donated to it. And I would really appreciate it if you did that. Just trying to help out. Okay, so as far as the audio thing, everything looks to be fine everywhere else. Just so you know, Card, it's always been on YouTube. So yeah, I mean, if you pause it, you'll lose the video as well. That's kind of the technology, but we have a lot to get to. We'll get to the football a little bit later. Let's talk about what is going on right now in our neck of the woods. We have tropical activity. We have also the severe weather that is developing. We have 2 severe thunderstorm warnings out now, 3. And we have our severe thunderstorm watch out here. Now, this was literally just issued before I went on air. I'm like, oh, great, perfect timing. Why not wait to the very last second when the storms are literally passing through, which they literally are. So we just got this severe thunderstorm watch out, which makes sense as this matches up pretty nicely with the vertical wind shear that is developing and also with our lifted index. Okay, now you see this blue shading here? This basically is cap on the atmosphere. So these thunderstorms are working in a very, very narrow area where it can maximize itself. So you have some instability, you have moisture, and you have your cold front that's still back off to the west. Meanwhile, you have a pretty good jet streak setting up and enhancing the thunderstorms. Okay, this is at 300 millibars. When the jet streak is oriented like this means two things. One, the cold front's going to be slowing down, and two, you're going to have a lot of lifting out ahead of it, which is why we have this prefrontal trough here. That's why all these showers and thunderstorms are igniting well ahead of the cold front, because of this feature right here, which is basically divergence in the atmosphere. Card, I just found out the reason why you might be getting that echo is based on the internet you're using. Is anyone else getting a echo? Just checking out, just making sure. Okay. Okay, echo is gone. Okay. Am I doing any weightlifting fundraisers? Not yet, but it's probably a good idea. I don't know. I'll have to check that out. I'll have to talk to my brother, see if they're doing something. I don't want to take anything away from what he's doing, though. Okay, that's really important. So I don't want to split it. Maybe something in the spring. Maybe I can work out something with him. But like I was saying, this jet streak is going to be really important because this jet streak is going to align with the cold front and cause residual rainfall to linger. I'm not sure why this echo is coming up. Huh. Let me see here. This is the first time I've had this echo issue. And I got the internet. I'm not sure. Guys, I'm not sure why there's an echo this time. It could just be something in YouTube. Some people are getting no echoes. I don't know. What an echoey night. What can I say? They do call me Batman, so it would make sense. Got the echoes. Let's see here. So, I want to show you. Here's our thunderstorms coming in. This line is particularly strong heading into Monroe and Bethlehem over here, and heading towards Warren County in New Jersey. What I've been watching for is the development of a bit of a twist earlier on. That has pretty much fallen apart. So I'm starting to think that in terms of the thunderstorms for this evening, not so much tornadoes. That was isolated to begin with. But definitely straight line winds. We've already seen wind gusts in Albany around 70 miles per hour. And here's something that's really stood out to me. This is the rainfall per hour. Okay, rainfall rate. We're seeing spots up to 2 inches per hour. That's impressive. And that also is going to lead to the potential for flash flooding. So as this line moves through portions of northeastern Pennsylvania and northwestern New Jersey, and even up towards Poughkeepsie and the Catskills and the Hudson River Valley, along with the potential for strong wind gusts, I am very concerned about the threat for flash flooding because these thunderstorms are producing some really impressive heavy rainfall. And also, take a look at this lightning that's showing up, if we can get it. Well, it was showing up. 1 second. I'll put it here. There it is. Okay, so this cell is producing a ton of lightning as well. So this storm, this line right here, is probably the strongest out of the bunch over the region that I'd worry about. And that is likely going to be heading towards Bethlehem and Northampton, County of Northampton. It's going to pass to the north of Reading, but watch out for this part to kind of clip northern portions of Reading, PA. And it will get through Warren and Huntington counties in New Jersey, probably towards 11 o'clock around Montgomery. I think by the time it gets towards New Brunswick and northeastern New Jersey, it'll start to weaken because it'll start to move into the more stable atmosphere along the coast. So you could see the strength of this thunderstorms coming in. So certainly we have our hands full for tonight with these showers and thunderstorms. Now that jet streak I was telling you about, let me pull up that guidance 300 millibars. And I brought this up this morning in the premium discussions. You see how this jet streak develops here? When this develops in this orientation, and this is for tomorrow evening, what this does is slows down the entire cold front. So as a result, what you end up with is this scenario where you get the cold front to slowly move through tomorrow and then linger around the region. So you get these scattered showers hanging around the coast. Now, overnight tonight, we're going to see the bulk of our rainfall, probably around 1 to 2 inches, and that's where we're going to end up with the threat for that flash flooding. But don't let your guard down tomorrow morning. If you have any type of scenario where you have streams by you, lakes, if you have water issues already with your basement because of a high water table, it's going to be a problem until about tomorrow afternoon. After that, it is beautiful all the way on through this upcoming weekend. I mean, absolutely beautiful. Oh, by the way, pumpkin spice coffee. Yum. So, once we get through this stretch, it's absolutely beautiful after this. So, we're going to come back to the severe thunderstorm threat a little bit later in our discussion, but I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the tropics. We got Mindy, Tropical Storm Mindy. Can you find it? If you're saying it's this little dot right here, you're almost right. It's basically this circulation right here. And they named it based on the fact that you had some buoy data that supported 45 mile per hour winds. So they found it strong enough to be tropical storm strength. This is a very disorganized tropical storm, and it's going to be making landfall tonight around the Florida Panhandle. Not going to have a direct impact on our neck of the woods in any way, shape, or form. But if you have any friends and family down towards Florida, Georgia, southeastern Alabama, they don't need any more rain, and unfortunately, they're going to get a lot more rain. This is going to continue to lift through, and it's basically going to get entrained by this giant trough here, the same trough that's bringing us strong to severe thunderstorms, and that is starting to pick up Hurricane Larry, is also going to pick up what's left of our tropical storm here, which again is called Mindy. No, I'm not lying. It really is Mindy. It will get picked up and entrained and basically torn apart. So Mindy will not be with us for very long. It will be a tropical depression by the time we wake up tomorrow morning, somewhere around here. And by tomorrow evening, it will be somewhere off the South Carolina, Georgia coast, somewhere around here, barely hanging on, getting sheared apart. So nothing really too much to worry about in terms of Mindy, aside from the heavy rainfall threat. Then we have Hurricane Larry. Now, Larry is starting to run into some colder waters. It's already starting to weaken. It's no longer a major hurricane. It's down to 110 mile per hour winds. At one point, it was up to 125 mile per hour winds. Now, Larry is a really good indicator type storm. What I mean by that is that it kind of tells us where the pattern is. You see, Larry, and let me pull up the track for Larry, is basically moving around the Western Atlantic Ridge. So, as Larry is moving, what this tells us is that the Western Atlantic Ridge has retracted enough that this storm can't get any further west. This is an indication of a change in the MJO. The changes are about to occur once again. The Western Atlantic Ridge has contracted, And now it's going to be expanding. Why? Because as Larry lifts northward and interacts with the weather pattern over the northern Atlantic, it's going to enhance the negative NAO pattern, which means it's a calling card in a way. Hot and humid weather conditions are going to be returning. Now that is marked up pretty nicely with what we're seeing here with the MJO forecast for every model except for the GFS. But I checked the WPC, just discussion right here, which talks about model preference and how the models are doing. You can find that at wpc.ncep.noaa.gov, free website. Well, your taxes pay for it, but you get what I mean. And this gives you, under the extended forecast discussion, how well the models are doing. And basically what they're doing is taking an average of all the models except for the GFS. And they're kind of throwing the GFS out or reducing its influence. So as a result, I'm kind of staying away from this solution here. But if you go with the ensemble guidance, or you go with the CFS guidance, which is essentially a GFS ensemble version, what you basically end up with is that we go into phase 4. Use this one right here. It goes into phase 4, which is a warm pattern for us. So it allows the Western Atlantic Ridge to build. And I'll show you this in the model guidance. And then, towards the end of the month, we start heading towards phase 6 and 7. Phase 6 and 7 is a cool weather pattern for us, relatively. It allows for a trough to build in the east. It leads to the Western Atlantic Ridge, basically around the coastal waters. And we're back into a pattern that we saw a couple of weeks ago, where we have cold fronts approaching, a southwesterly wind, so we have more humidity, but the cold fronts are going to be stronger, so they'll be able to move through, but it's going to be a wet weather pattern, and one that's going to feature warm, low temperatures and cool, high temperatures. So at the end of this month and early October is going to be, I think, a very stormy period for us based on what I'm seeing here with the MJO. Now, for those of you who don't know, the MJO is basically a tropical forcing feature. So this kind of helps us determine how the pattern's going to develop. As we move further in, we'll talk more about the stratosphere and the development of the polar vortex, which is, let's see, this right here. You see that? That's the developing polar vortex. It's in its infancy. But as this gets stronger and more influential, we'll see this become more and more of an issue as we move forward in time. Apple seems to want me to join a podcast. I do not want to, so go away. Let's see here. What else do I want to touch on? Oh, right. The 500 millibar pattern. Almost forgot. Okay, so here we are right now in our current pattern. There's Larry getting lifted up. There's the Western Atlantic Ridge strengthening. And then here is our zonal pattern / Western Atlantic Ridge dominating. And this is basically what happens when you enter a phase 4. Now, once we enter phase 5, refresh this real fast. What we start to see is a transition away from that, and you start to see this trough dig into the eastern United States towards the end of the month. So the middle to end of September looks to be a rather hot, relatively humid, tropical time period for our neck of the woods, and we're going to have to keep an eye once again on tropical influences. One thing that is interesting, though, is that there is some indication that for the middle of September, when we usually see our peak, we might actually get some suppression in the tropical Atlantic, so it kind of gets a little bit quieter. We'll see whether that works out. So that is what I have for right now. I will throw up this radar, and we'll keep an eye on the severe thunderstorms while I start answering your questions. And keep an eye on the Mets. We're still losing. Wonderful. Against the Marlins. Uh, okay, let's see here. So let's see what questions do we have. I'll drop by YouTube and pick the best one on that one. By the way, in terms of these severe thunderstorms for locations like Philadelphia on south, I think that you'll still have a threat for an isolated severe thunderstorm like around midnight. But I think the bulk of the activity is going to be up here. And the reason why the bulk of the activity is going to be up here is based on what I'm seeing here on the water vapor satellite picture. And in fact, here, let me zoom in. You see these colder cloud tops? This is the infrared satellite picture first. See how these cloud tops are getting colder? This is an indication of stronger lifting. So this is the first indication of strong lifting up here. And we also have strong lifting down here. So in between these, you have to have sinking air, which basically covers the Delmarva and parts of the Philadelphia metro. So I think that inhibits the potential for severe thunderstorms. On the water vapor satellite picture, you kind of see the same scenario starting to take place here. Now, I'm not saying, in fact, here you could see some of that dry air. See that orange look right there? That's sinking air. That's sinking air between this feature and this feature. So I like the idea of more severe thunderstorms here over northwestern, northern New Jersey, northeastern Pennsylvania, marching its way east, than I do around the Philadelphia metro. However, that doesn't mean you won't see showers and thunderstorms. I just don't think they'll be as intense. So now we got that covered. I almost forgot to cover that. I apologize. Let me go back to the radar. Keep an eye on that. Make sure this is refreshing properly. And let me get to your questions. Let's see here. Let's see here. So, let's see. I look at the SPC. It looks like there's heavy frontogenesis at 9 to 25 millibars. Yep, there should be. Let's see here. Right here. Right here. This is our prefrontal trough. Now, this is driven by temperature changes in the atmosphere, which we can see pretty nicely here at 925 millibars. You see how it kind of packs in like this? That's frontogenesis. When you're looking at frontogenesis, is essentially the process of temperatures compacting, and as a result of that, you're getting this lifting motion in the atmosphere. Let's see here. Well, we're still talking about climate for some. There are times. Okay, here's the thing. When it comes to people talking about storms, there are some who are taking the most extreme position. And they have that right. Certainly when you flood out an entire city, it's kind of hard not to get very concerned. The key thing is this, right? Is that when it comes to storms, and the reason why I had my rant last week, when it came to our flooding event, was that everybody and their grandmother was warned about that storm. Okay? There is no reason why the government should not have been at least somewhat prepared, or at least knew it was coming. Which takes us to another point about the New York Post today, posting some ridiculous nonsense that tonight's thunderstorms, driven by a cold front, is somehow associated with Larry. Whoever wrote that, quite frankly, should be fired. I don't like having people lose their jobs, but that's literally what they did there is literally illegal. It's literally breaking the law. Okay? So when you have someone making up weather content, that's literally breaking the law. It's a federal law. It's a federal crime. So just kind of keep that in the back of your head. You know, I mean, they don't prosecute kids and stuff because kids are going to be kids. But that right there, that's New York Post. Come on, guys, grow up, step up. Card's asking, will we still get heavy rain as this moves through, though there's more stable air along the coast? Yes, in fact, it's even more likely. When you have stable air, right, what happens here, and okay, here is my little bottle here. This is stable air. This is our thunderstorm. When the thunderstorm approaches, the stable air weakens the thunderstorm but also lifts it. This lifting motion, as you see here, causes an increase in rising motion of air and enhances the potential for heavy rainfall. Now, sometimes this process weakens the thunderstorm so quickly that it collapses anyway. But in this case, when you have a prefrontal trough enhancing lifting, what happens is that the motion here of the stable air and the thunderstorm causes heavy rainfall to become enhanced, which is why there's a concern as this line's moving close to the coast that we'll end up with heavy rainfall for many locations, which of course is something we don't need right now. And check to see. Mindy barely looks like a tropical storm right now. I agree. It barely. Mindy is a perfect case of our technology being improved. I am very much certain that in the 1990s this would not have been named. I am very much certain early 2000s probably wouldn't have been named. But this isn't a fact of anyone tweaking anything. This is because we're able to see these circulations so much better now with our satellite technology, radar technology. We can fly drones into these storms now, so we can get a better view of what we're actually dealing with here. Okay? So as a result, you're ending up with more named systems for two reasons. One, more activity, and two, better observations. If you had these type of observations back in the 80s, I have no doubt we would have had more named storms. We certainly would have had more subtropical storms, that is for sure. So Mindy is an absolutely perfect example of that, where we have more buoys picking up data, we have more technology observing these storms. I mean, heck, when I was a teenager, all right, many, many years ago, all right, so maybe 25 years ago, which seems it's a quarter century. That doesn't feel good at all. Actually, now that I think about it, 25 years ago, okay, we didn't have radar and satellite at hand. I had to wait for the Weather Channel to show a satellite picture. And if you wanted to go online to look at it, good luck. You might be waiting an hour just to get one loop to develop. So now everyone can see it. Now everyone can observe it. And now scientists have better data. So Mindy is a perfect case of it is a true tropical storm. It's a true warm core low. Poorly defined, very much disorganized warm core low. Don't get me wrong. But a warm core low nonetheless. The cold core portion of it is much further off to the west now. It's been able to separate enough to be two distinct features. But probably as we move on through the next 48 hours, it'll probably take on more subtropical and then extratropical features by the time we get to Friday night. So we have been having pretty much steady 2 to 4 sunspots. I knew the sunspots question was coming, so I already had it prepared. Here is the sun. It has definitely become a lot more active of late, which is what we would expect in solar cycle 25. So yes, the sunspots have become more active, but they're still weak, but they're definitely more active. We have a lot to learn about the sun, and we're going to be learning a lot over the next decade. Again, I want to reiterate, there is literally no support right now of a grand solar minimum at this time. At this time, all right? So I'm just being honest with you. If we want to talk about the solar activity, we have to be honest and be realistic about what we're dealing with. What will the MJO mean in terms of tropical systems for us? Excellent question. Let me go to the MJO. Where are you? I know you're around here somewhere. There it is. Okay. So here's a general rule. When I'm looking for tropical activity, what I'm looking for is for activity around Africa. So basically phase 8 and 1. Because this is where I'm generating my waves, right? So I'm looking for activity around the African continent because that's where our tropical waves come off of. So if I'm seeing a lot of activity here, then what that will translate to, and this is phase, 8 and 1, what that translates to is a greater potential for activity for the Atlantic basin. Phase 2, not too bad either. That means you have tropical waves in the Indian Ocean. They go through Africa, still coming into the African basin. When I'm in phases 4 or 5, 3, 4, and 5, 3, you start to decline. 4 and 5 is kind of a suppression. 6 is kind of in between. 7, you start to see a slight increase in activity. But what I'm really looking for is phase 8 and 1. You could sometimes throw 2 in there too, but mostly 8 and 1. Okay, and the last time we had a lot of activity was when? July into early August. When were we in last phase 8? July, early August. See how that works? Okay, now that isn't the only important factor. There are many important factors when it comes to forecasting tropical activity, but that would be one of them. Would a pattern give the West Coast some rain? Marginal. Very, very little rain. Look, guys, let me just put it this way. The mega drought is here, and it isn't going away anytime soon. Let me pull up this. There we go. The EPS, Eastern Pacific Oscillation. This oscillation, the EPO, when it's predominantly negative, that means that the West Coast is pretty much going to stay dry and we are going to remain very active. And as we go through October, we have another negative stretch showing up. We have maybe a positive stretch showing up for definitely for the middle of September and then maybe for the middle of October. Those 2 time periods is when I'm expecting a warm period for the eastern United States, and the end of September through the middle of October is when I expect us to be cool. Reverse-wise, I'm also expecting the western United States to remain very dry throughout much of this period, unfortunately. But if you're looking for rainfall, it's going to be in the middle of September and middle of October, if any. Unfortunately, it's not looking good out there. They're going to have some major drought issues. When does fall weather arrive for good? September is usually kind of like the best way I can describe it is kind of like doing a cha-cha, right? Goes back and forth, back and forth. That's usually your transition month. End of September, early October is when you start really locking in your fall weather pattern. You know, we start getting more 60s and 70s for highs, maybe a couple 50s, start to see more 40s for lows, stuff like that. But you can't really give up a chance for temperatures jumping back up into the 80s until you get till like around Halloween. Okay, especially in a La Nina pattern because you have to contend with the southeast ridge. Hey Steve, Rosh Hashanah, this is from Aaron. Rosh Hashanah just ended and I just logged on. Can you give me an update on the storms? Okay, just we'll do a quick check up. And I hope you had a happy Rosh Hashanah. All right, so we still have, look at this. Look at a cluster up here, up towards Albany. This is where we're having the bulk of our instability, of our strongest lifting, which lines up perfectly with what I was discussing with our water vapor satellite picture. This is where our strongest PVA is located, positive vorticity advection, right here. And so naturally, that's where we're lining up our strongest thunderstorms. Now, your strongest line for our area is essentially going to be marching through northern New Jersey. You're going to have a threat for thunderstorms down towards southeastern Pennsylvania, but I'm really not impressed with the threat here. I can't rule out an isolated severe thunderstorm, but I think the best potential is going to be basically where we are at northeastern Pennsylvania and northern New Jersey through midnight. As you head down towards the coast, I think it's more of a heavy rainfall event. And as we check out the latest data on the storms, let's take the lightning off, because I want to see if there's any sign of rotation. And thus far, very little, which is great news, which is very, very good news. So far we got like a lot of straight line wind, but no tornadic activity just yet developing. We'll keep an eye on that, though. That's going to be something to keep an eye on, to watch. Let's see. The Post quickly corrected the headline. Yeah, I saw. Yeah, after about 7,000 meteorologists literally killed them. If we had modern satellite technology now, I wonder how many storms it would have detected in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Probably quite a bit. They're trying to attempt to do a study to figure out via old ship logs if they could find more storms, and also study pressure logs in terms of analyzing subtropical storms that we might have missed. But it's really hard because, look, they collected data the best they could in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, but it was the 30s, 40s, and 50s. There wasn't a lot you could really do. That's why, by the way, the forecast for D-Day is so miraculous, because they had next to no data. They had to rely on data that was 12 hours old. So think about that. That's for World War II trying to get into France, right? One of the most important forecasts that we've ever had. And they had very limited data, and that they had the full force of the military trying to collect data. And some of that data was 12 hours old. So just imagine just trying to forecast for a regular tropical storm, just kind of a heavy rain event. They don't even bother. They just call it a heavy rain event, a strong low. That's it. Whereas now, you can name it a tropical storm. Not that there's any agenda, it's just that you could see it better now. Now, granted, we did change the criteria for naming because of subtropical storms. That is a factor. I always bring that up because you can't compare apples and oranges in terms of the number of storms if you don't take that into account. Western Pacific has been very quiet as far as tropical systems go. Yes, but there's definitely been an uptick. There is a Category 5 typhoon right now. They're all heading due west. They're not curving northward, which is, again, another sign that we're going to be heading into a warm pattern for the middle of this month. Nice cluster storms popping up south of Harrisburg. I almost lost. There we go. Yep, right around here. Yeah. There's some. This is all associated with the prefrontal trough here. You had stronger storms down towards Maryland and Northern Virginia and West Virginia. But there's a nice little cluster heading towards Harrisburg. We could, again, I like the idea of strong storms, but I think your most severe storms are going to be northeastern Pennsylvania and especially around the Capital District in New York. And there are cold front follows later. Is there a threat for tornadoes? There's still the threat for tornadoes because of the bulk wind shear. But it's not all, it's starting to weaken. Okay, let's see here. It's pretty good composite. Let's see if we can pull up a composite. You see, this is for tornado parameters, okay? So this is basically the potential for an inflow and wind shear, and this is for Cape. So we have some potential here, right around the Delaware River Valley. but it's very weak. You just can't rule it out. And that's why we keep on seeing this kind of weak signal trying to pop up every so often around Stroudsburg now. You see that very weak signal? That's a turning in the atmosphere. But it's so weak that it really can't complete itself. Let's see here. Also, a lot of 1940s data from 1940 to 1945 was classified. Yep, that is true. But they weren't really hiding any hurricanes, though. Okay, so what we have here is, let's see, right in front of the cold front, there seems to be an isolated cell in northwestern PA, southwestern New York. Right around here. Yep. One little lone cell right along the cold front. It's lonely. It missed all its friends well to the east. I would not be surprised if this expands. Let me pull up the latest HRR data. Okay. So, let me expand out. New England. So the first line moves through, right, tonight. And it does its damage. But notice how we get this redevelopment of rainfall for tomorrow morning. Now this, which is also supported pretty nicely by the NAM guidance, that same redevelopment, a little bit further east, but the same idea. And starting to show up on the 18Z guidance. Now what's causing that? That rainfall is going to be caused by this jet stream. You see the alignment here? This alignment here is basically parallel to our cold front. In fact, I'll zoom out here. There's our cold front. There's our jet streak. Pretty much right over on top of each other. Why is that important? Well, as this jet streak intensifies, it's going to, at the same time, run parallel to the cold front. So it slows down the movement of the cold front, but also, because of the jet streak dynamics, it's going to stretch the atmosphere. You're going to see this start to coalesce over the region. See these little bullseyes of purple or magenta, should I say, I guess. This is going to lead to enhanced lifting in the atmosphere, which is why we're going to see that rainfall develop throughout the day tomorrow, which again opens up that potential for flooding. Now, I'm not expecting a ton of rain, but I would not be surprised if we get the potential for some localized flash flooding. And I'm thinking like rainfall generally around 1/2 an inch to an inch, but then you're going to have some isolated spots up to 2 inches. Now it's 8:45, so I promised everyone that I would also go over some football information real fast. Normally, let's see here. Is there anything that's standing out on YouTube? Let's see here. Basically, anyone, let me zoom in. Anyone in the Poconos and the Catskills, especially the Catskills. Oh, great. And that's the car. Wonderful. Yeah, they're wonderful. Okay. Wow. Got West Orange. Okay. We do have some showers and thunderstorms that are, I apologize for the horn. Live. I love going live. Okay. Anyway, let's ignore that. There we go. Perfect. The showers and thunderstorm threat for West Orange and basically the Catskills and the Hudson River Valley, you're still going to be a threat for strong to severe thunderstorms through around, I'd say, 1 a.m. But the primary threat is going to be the frequent lightning and the potential for strong wind gusts. I'd say anywhere between 45 and 65 miles per hour. I think that your strongest storms are going to be, I really like the idea of keeping your strongest storms up around Albany. That's where you have your best dynamics, best lifting, best vertical wind shear, best strongest moisture transport. So I like them mostly focused around here, which means that these storms down here are a little bit weaker. Aside from that one line that's going to be pressing towards northern New Jersey, I think northwestern New Jersey through about 11 p.m., you guys are in for a bit of a rough ride. So let me quickly, no ice cream truck, well, that's good. Yeah, we scared it off. All right, let me just go quickly over the football games that are coming up because I got a lot of email requests for that. Normally what I do is I do the football forecast as a separate video. But since we're live anyway, and it's Wednesday, and tomorrow's the first game, might as well just knock this out. Here's the good news. No major weather impacts, aside maybe for the Buffalo game. Could be some showers on Sunday afternoon. Other than that, pretty much every game is going to have non-weather impacts. Now, so if your team loses, you can't blame it on the weather. As always, I make my picks every week. I post them on Twitter, so if you want to check them out, they're basically there. They'll be posted every Wednesday. But basically, I think Tampa Bay is going to beat Dallas because look, they won the Super Bowl. You got to give them some credit, right? Some notable games. I think that Philadelphia is going to win. I know you guys are interested in that. Buffalo, I think, will beat Pittsburgh. I think Buffalo is a really good up-and-coming team. I think that, let's see, the Jets, I think, are going to surprise a lot of people. I like their offensive line. I always say, as someone who's a former offensive lineman, I always like an offensive line that looks like it's starting to congeal. Don't sleep on the Jets. I wouldn't also sleep on the Giants either. Not so much that they're going to be a good team, but the rest of the NFC East is god-awful, so they'll have a chance. Of course, my Chiefs, I think, will defeat Cleveland. I think that's going to be a good game. I think that's going to be the game to watch for the first week of the NFL. Kansas City Chiefs versus the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are a good team. I think they have a great defense, but they will not be able to contend with the greatness of the Kansas City Chiefs. Thank you very much. So those are my picks. You could definitely check them out on Twitter. You can go through all of them. I don't want to spend the whole evening going over every pick. But we'll see how I did. And I'll share it with you next Wednesday, and we'll follow the weather. I am hoping this year I'll be able to talk about an NFL game where we're going to have snow to go into it, and that I would really love. Paul asks, is any severe weather threat for New York City area? I think that thunderstorms are going to weaken as they approach the New York City area, but don't sleep on the heavy rainfall. I think the heavy rainfall is going to be a problem once again. It's going to cause some major ponding and urban flooding, so definitely keep an eye on that. Mindy will be out of the way for tomorrow's game in Tampa. Yeah, Mindy will be out of the way. I don't think it'll be too much of an issue by the time they start their game. I'm just looking at the latest data. Let's see here. By 8 a.m. tomorrow, what's left of Mindy will be flying through Georgia, and you'll have some residual showers in the afternoon, but I think by the time you get to the evening, it pretty much dries out. So I don't think it'll be any problem. Again, Mindy is basically essentially just a nice little rainstorm. Let's see here. Let's see. When will the snow... someone's already asking, when will the snow start? Wow. All right. When will the snow start? First snowfall. Okay, if we count... All right, let's go with a rule. If we count just a recorded amount, which would be a trace, I would not be surprised if we see our first trace in the northern mid-Atlantic, which includes the Poconos, by late November. I would not be surprised if we get some lake effect snow popping into portions of the Poconos by late November. I'll go with that. As far as the coastal plain, never go for a snowfall before December 5th because the water temperatures are typically too warm. You really want to wait until after December 15th for any real accumulating snow. It's not saying it's not impossible, but if you're going to go with averages, typically you want to go for after December 15th. Let's see. And I gotta say, everyone's done an amazing job with the questions tonight. That is outstanding. Everything is so wet. There is no place. That's a great point. Let's see. Okay. This part of the website, I want to show you this. This is called water.weather.gov. You can find this on the National Weather Service. Okay, I want to show you guys this. I should have done this to begin with, but this is a great resource, especially if you're looking at buying a house or anything and you want to see what the water tables are like, which is really, really important if you're buying a house or going anywhere or worry about flooding or anything. It's under rivers and lakes, okay? This area gives you a ton of information, including hydrology resources. So what this does is that all of these links here provide a ton of data on the state of the water table. So let's see. I want to do coastal New Jersey, let's say. You could get the idea, you get an idea of all the rivers and the basins. It's good educational, right? Good educational reference. Okay. And it gives you an idea of the stream conditions. So you can see that we're starting to see some improvement in the stream conditions, but you still have some problems in some of these basins. So as far as the amount of rainfall that we've had to deal with, this gives you an idea of the amount of rainfall we've had, how far it can go back. So I wanted to share that with you so you can get an idea of where I get my data from and get an idea on the stream flows, river observations. This tells you what the state of the rivers are. So if you're ever not sure, or if I'm not around for whatever reason, and you need information about whether or not a river by you is getting anywhere near danger, go to the National Weather Service, go to your office, which would be either Philadelphia or New York, and then go under rivers, and you can get all this cool data. So you can get an idea of where you're trending towards. So in this case, this is Passaic River at Pine Brook. You can see it's declining and it's expected to continue to decline. Even with the rainfall on the way, it does a little bit of a leveling off and then it starts falling off again. So I wanted to show you that. That way you know, okay, where to find that information. You know, that way you don't have to wait for me. You could also look for it for yourself, and it's a good resource to use. Baseball update: the Mets have tied the Marlins, which really they should be blowing out the Marlins, but whatever. We'll see how that plays out. How are the Yankees doing? I've been hearing issues. Oh, sorry, Yankee fans. Don't worry, they'll rebound. They got the whole month. They'll get there. Don't worry. They'll make it to the playoffs. I have no doubt about that because they're the Yankees. It's my Mets that I'm worried about. Let me see, get an update on the rainfall here. Rainfall rates, still pretty impressive. When this blows through, again, this is what I'm primarily concerned about, is this heavy rainfall. When you get into this zone here, 1.5, 1.7, 2 inches per hour, that is some very heavy rainfall in a very short period of time. And I'm very much concerned about that potential for flash flooding. Card, have a wonderful vacation or holiday. And, next week starts Yom Kippur. I have to be honest with you. Between being grown up Catholic and every holiday that we had then, literally every Wednesday was a holiday or a feast, which is why a lot of us are overweight, because every freaking week was a feast. And the Jewish holidays, I have tried to go and celebrate every holiday that I come across on my calendar, and I realize that if I celebrate every holiday that our country has with all the different groups, which is really awesome, I would never go to work because it's crazy. So that's pretty cool. I hope you have a happy Yom Kippur. That's awesome. Let's see here. Yes, the one thing we are very concerned about is the obstructed drains. That's going to be another factor, which again, some cities should probably do a better job of taking care of rather than blaming meteorologists. But what do I know? Okay, so it's almost 9 o'clock. I'm going to take a last few questions, and then we are going to shut it down, and I am going to watch Archer. That's right, a new episode of Archer, and also yell at my team to see why they're not winning. How much rain are we expecting to get tomorrow? I'm thinking on average about a quarter to a half an inch of rain, but watch out for some heavier downpours pushing up to 1 inch. But overall, this is going to be a light to moderate rainfall with some batches of heavier downpours from time to time. I'm not seeing right now any type of mesoscale influence, but I will be keeping an eye on the development of the divergence and diffluence. In fact, here, this right here. Right now, a lot of this is focused up here, which also happens to be where our strongest thunderstorms are. If I start to see this type of signal showing up down towards our neck of the woods because of this jet streak, that would be a problem. That would lead to heavier rainfall than what I'm currently expecting. But right now, I'm not expecting that. Okay, I think that's it for tonight. Thank you for following in with the live chat. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for following on YouTube and also the premium members. I really appreciate it. I hope I answered all your questions. As always, have a wonderful night and stay safe out there.